Hey, what's up my friend? Keala Kanae here, and in this video I'm going to share with you a simple strategy that you can use to overcome more objections and close more sales, especially when you're right there about to make the deal. So stick with me all the way up until the end of this video. It could definitely help you line your pockets, so let's get started. All right, so the strategy that I'm going to share with you here is one that we really focus on even with our own in-house sales team currently. And so in case you're new to my videos or new to the channel, just to give you some backstory, over the last 3.5 years or so, we've hired literally dozens of salespeople on our team, and I've trained the vast majority of them. And even if I didn't train them directly, they're typically going through some or all of my sales training. And does it work is the question. Well, over the last 3.5 years or so, we've closed about $60 million of sales with that team. And so I'm not saying that to brag or to boast. I'm just letting you know that it's worked about 60 million times, right? And really, all jokes aside, it's to help you understand what's possible when you harness the power of what it is that I'm about to cover with you in this video. Now, before I dig into that though, really quick, if you like everything that you're learning here, drop a like on the channel. If you want to learn more, if you have any questions, if it was insightful for you, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, right? All of these things help support the channel so that I can continue to create dynamic content that helps support you, your business, your goals, and your ambitions. So if you like it. Very simple, right? All right, so when we're moving in on the sale with a prospect, typically for most prospects, we're gonna run into some sort of objection, right? And the average beginner salesperson typically gets frustrated with that. They think, oh man, another objection, like, oh, I gotta overcome this. And we tend to resist it, and that's kind of the novice experience. But over the years, I eventually learned how to really respect it, and even to a degree, appreciate it, right? Because see, the objection is really a way of them letting me know what belief they're currently holding on to that's stopping them from taking action, that's stopping them from making the purchase. So in other words, that objection gives me a clue as to what belief is standing in the way. And so one of the things that I want to do to help overcome the objections is a strategy called reframing. Now, I didn't invent that. I actually learned this when I was going through a certification program to be a quote-unquote life coach, right? And this is years ago when I was flat broke trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. But I went through a coaching program, and one of the things that we learned how to do is reframe, so identify the beliefs of the person that we're working with and then help reframe and open their mind to a potential new belief, right? So when the objection comes up, they're basically telling us that they are holding on to a belief that's standing in the way, okay? What we want to do is open them up to potentially the opposite. What is the opposite of that belief? So one of the questions that I like to ask myself is, what can I say to get them to see that the opposite may be true? What can I say to get them to see that the opposite may be true? Or what can I ask to get them to see, right? Because what I've actually found is that rather than saying that, well, that's not true, this is true. If we were to say that, typically what's going to happen is that prospect's going to close down, right? They're going to feel resistant, right? But when somebody reaches their own conclusions, when they open up that door in their own mind of their own volition, they very rarely will question its validity, right? So I like to ask powerful questions in this process that will help to overcome that objection. So really, what I train my sales team on is that selling, especially at a high consultative, high ticket sales level, is really the art and science of being a great, asker of questions, so to speak. In fact, I have a great mentor who likes to say that a quality of our life will reflect the quality of the questions that we ask. So I'm always looking for a great quality question to ask that will open up their mind to a new belief. So let's say that the prospect says, well, I can't afford that. Right? So they think that they can't afford it is the current belief, right? I want to open them up to the idea that they can afford it or that it's affordable. That would be the opposite belief. And so what's a question that we can ask there? Well, I might say something along the lines of, well, can you afford not to have it? Can you really afford not to have it? Might be the simple question. Can you really afford not to do this? Right? They might say, well, oh, it's expensive. So they think, oh, okay, the belief is that it's expensive. It's outside of their price range, right? Well, I want them to see that the prices that they're already paying are more expensive, right? So again, that this is affordable. So I might ask the simple question, is it any more than the prices that you're already paying? Or what about the prices that you're already paying for not having done this? Have you considered the prices that you're paying for not having the solution, right? So I want them to see that what if the opposite is true, that actually not having this is more expensive, right? If they say, well, I don't have the time, so time might be the belief, right? I'm too busy, I'm not sure I have the time. I might say something along those, so I want them to see that they have time or that they can make time, right? So I might ask a simple question of, well, would you agree that we don't have time, right? We make time. They always say yes, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. That's a fact, right? It's about what we make time for that gets done, right? So I'll say, would you agree that none of us really has time, but we make time, right? And they'll say, yeah. I say, well, how could you make time for this? Well, I guess I can move this, or, well, now that you bring that up, I guess, that I could do this or I could do that, right? So how can you make time for this, right? So this is the game, is really to when an objection comes up, ask yourself, what belief are they giving me a clue to? What belief are they holding on to? Now, what would be the opposite of that belief? And what's a question that I can ask to get them to open up to the opposite belief, right? And that's the game that we're playing, right? And if you want to get really good at this, so typically this is actually my second approach to handling objections, because my first approach is typically just to let them talk. It's really just to say, well, it's interesting that you bring that up. What makes you say that? Or, I hadn't thought of that. Tell me more about that. Or, that's an interesting thought. Care to expand on that? Right? And I'll actually let them talk. When you do this, you'll be surprised how often people will talk themselves out of their own objection, right? But they bring up the objection, and typically as salespeople, we want to jump in there and kind of beat that thing down and overcome it, rather than just playing some sales Tai Chi, We're just going to kind of let this thing go by and see what happens. Just observe it. All right. So that's interesting that you say that. What made you bring that up? Well, I'm just not sure. And they'll start talking, and boom, before you know it, they've convinced themselves, they've talked themselves right out of their own objection. Typically, this is actually my second approach. We've tried that, where the conversation's maybe not moving forward, and I'll say, well, so let's say they bring up time. Well, I'm not sure I have the time for that. Well, that's interesting. What makes you say that? Well, I'm just kind of looking at everything that we've gone over today, and I'm thinking this is probably going to take about 3 to 5 hours a week, and I just don't know if I have more time for that. I mean, I guess I could, and they'll just start talking themselves right out of it, okay? Or if it doesn't go that route, I'll say, well, would you agree that time isn't really something we have, it's something we make, right? Yes. Well, what could you do to make some time for this? Well, I guess I could move this and this around. There you go, right? So my point here is the strategy is to learn to be a master of asking quality questions, right? That the questions are the answer. And if you're asking quality questions, not only will you build great rapport, not only will you build a great relationship with that prospect, not only will you close more sales, but you'll do it more fluid and effortlessly. I hope you got value out of this. If you did, go ahead and drop a comment down below. Go ahead and like the channel, subscribe, and again, offer some support. So that just helps support the channel so that I can continue to create content that supports you. I hope you got value out of this, and I'll see you in another video, my friend. Take care.